Part 85. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 850. Both Mr. Feng and Jenkin are worried about one thing, that is, Lu Feng's temper is too straight, he can't figure out his position, and he screwed up this matter. Judging from Lu Feng's current state, he feels that his posture is still fine, and Zhenkun is a little relieved. The 16-hour flight passed quickly. As the plane landed in New York, the people in the cabin cheered. Most of the people here are Chinese faces. They sat in the economy class and looked out through the windows. Excited. The first class got off first, and Lu Feng got off the plane. He had to wait for the staff behind him. He sat in the business van. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, US time, and the sun had just risen. As the people in the economy class got off the plane, a man knelt on the ground and kissed the concrete floor, and said excitedly, "I finally set foot on this land, I want to settle down here, live here, and realize my American dream. Freedom is in the air here. I love you, America. The United States needs me, and I will work hard here. Now the United States is my glory, and I must be the glory of the United States in many years." These people were standing, kneeling, excited, and expressing their situation in a weird way. It could be said that they were all ugly, and Lu Feng frowned. Feng Xiao lowered the car window and asked Lu Feng, "Is this the tragedy of a country?" "No. This is the sadness of some lackeys." Lu Feng felt very uncomfortable. He knew that the American dream was very important in the hearts of many Chinese people, but he didn't expect it to be like this now. But many years later, there are still female students saying that the air is in the air. It's not surprising to drift freely. The times will change. At that time, it was the sadness of these people. 30 years in Hedong and 30 years in Hexi. Looking back in 30 years, maybe they will regret their current choices. Let's not talk about this, it's all a personal choice. Zhenkun cut off the topic. Lu Feng didn't want to look at this too much, so he asked Feng Xiao to raise the window of the car, and when the people arrived, he took the shuttle bus to the airport exit. After leaving the airport, the car to pick up the plane was already waiting. At the entrance of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, a group of people yawned and checked in. They needed to avoid jet lag, so they had to stay up until it was dark before they could sleep. Jenkin was getting old and couldn't sleep on the plane. Lu Feng and Feng Xiao squinted for a while, but they were fine. Going upstairs, Lu Feng saw Zhenkun yawning and said, "Uncle Kun, there is jet lag service in the hotel, you can massage, take a bubble bath, and then go to activities. If you can't bear it, go to sleep in the afternoon. We can handle it." This is Lu Feng's first time here, right? Let's take a look around. If there is anything we can discuss tomorrow, Jenkin ordered. The arrangement here is almost the same, don't act alone. Don't worry, we'll just go around for a while. Lu Feng had a cute look on his face. The other staff also checked into the room. After Lu Feng returned to the room, he first called the person in charge of the front station and asked them to come over. Half an hour later, a man in his 20s came over with two people, a man and a woman. The man in the elevator complained, "What's the matter? President Lu made me do the impossible." "Matter? At least let us do it, it means that we still recognize us." "Shit, the company sent the three of us here because the business department only knows how to speak English well." Going upstairs, the man rang the doorbell of Lu Feng's room, the door opened, Lu Feng looked at the three and said, "Come in." It is not easy to choose people this time, at least they must be good in English, and they need to be familiar with the department and have basic insights on the content of the company's cooperation. Look for these people. These three people are all new employees who have been picked up by the Talent Reserve Center for 1 year. They are responsible for external reception in the business department. Sit down, what do you call them? Lu Feng looked at the three of them. "Mr. Lu, my name is Wang Yuan He. I graduated from the School of Foreign Languages. I am currently in the reception team of the business department, said the man who took the lead. Mr. Lu, my name is Lu Yulong. I also majored in English, and now I am in the legal department, said another boy. Boss Lu, my name is Njia Y, I also majored in English, and now I work as a clerk in the president's office, the girl said timidly with a little freckles on her face. It's all good, sit down, you're welcome. Lu Feng took the lead and sat down and said, as for me, I just got off the plane, and you guys made a stop in advance. How is the situation? Njia Y and Lu Yulong looked at Wang Yuanhe. Although Wang Yuanhe was unhappy with the difficulty of arranging work, he still had to report to the boss seriously and said, these famous schools, except for Columbia University in New York, are in other cities. I called the school's reception desk. Called and went to tell us which company we belong to. People may not be very happy. I'm not very happy to be normal. I have to work harder. There must be difficulties in work. We must learn to overcome difficulties, Lu Feng said. The three of them thought to themselves, what you said is so humming easy. Lu Yulong felt that Lu Feng didn't feel how euphemistic the words were, and continued, we couldn't make a phone call, so we went there in person, and they received us. People are also very polite, just the words that start with F. And he scolded us all the way from the office gate to the school gate. Njia Y said with red eyes, a lot of people are looking at us, and some domestic students even scolded us for being shameful, so why scold us, we just go looking for a partner. Don't cry, don't cry. Lu Feng hurriedly took out 2 pieces of paper and handed them over. We just think that everyone is equal, and we talk to them on behalf of the company, but he scolded us. People say that they are a world-renowned school, and it's ugly to scold us. Lu Yulong lowered his head and said, where there is a smooth sailing, it's normal to have difficulties. Lu Feng leaned on the sofa and thought for a moment, well, I'm also jet-lagged today, so I'll go with you. Anyway, New York is just such a school. After getting here, go to other schools. Today? We just went there and got scolded in the morning, and Njia Y obviously resisted going there again. It's okay, I'm here, who dares to scold you? I'll scold you back. You go get a banner now. Lu Feng thought for a while and said, just write it down, black is the most mysterious color in the world, please let the world accept black from this moment. It is good. The three of them went downstairs. Wang Yuanhe sighed in the elevator and said, you can run rampant with a banner? I really don't know what he thinks. Let me tell you, don't play casually on the topic of race, if it is at the school gate. When the fight started, those students all had guns on them. Njia Y was startled and said, what if something goes wrong? How can we protect President Lu? Protect a fart, he is such a rich man, he doesn't even have a bodyguard. No matter what, it's not up to us who barely get 1,000 yuan a month to protect him, Lu Yulong said angrily. I heard in the department that this boss thinks that as soon as he thinks of it, he will let the people below do things that he can't do. Wang Yuanhe's face was full of displeasure. And I heard that the style is not good. The girls in the company all hooked up with him. I heard that the former boss had an affair with him. Later, when he got tired of it, he opened him up, and it was Mr. Wei's turn. Lu Yulong gossips. Then I won't. Njia Y became nervous. Wang Yuanhe and Lu Yulong glanced at her face and said in unison, put your heart in your belly. After getting out of the elevator, the three of them whispered and went outside to find a print shop. Lu Feng took a cold shower, and his whole body became a lot more awake. He knew that the people at Goldman Sachs would definitely have to hang himself for a while, and Lu Feng also wanted to hang them for a while. This period of time was when he was pulling people from the Talent Reserve Center. At the same time, he is also planning to get a Talent Reserve Center here, and also get a research and development point this year. He didn't want to take Feng Xiao, but he was afraid that Jenkin thought he had done something behind his back, so Lu Feng knocked on Feng Xiao's room in addition to the door. Feng Xiao also just took a cold shower. He was stunned when he saw Lu Feng in his nightgown, and said, "Brother Feng, are you sleeping? Why don't you come in and chat for a while?" "There's no need to chat, I'm going to go to school, do you want to follow me?" Lu Feng asked. Going to school? Feng Xiao wondered, which school? What are you going to do? Go give a speech, change clothes, and go, Lu Feng tapped him on the shoulder. At 10 o'clock in the morning, the two cars set off from the hotel. Before leaving, Lu Feng bought a handheld horn, and then went straight to Columbia University, which is the best school in New York, occupying the best land resources, beautiful environment, and everywhere. It is soft turf, and there is a white European-style teaching building in the distance. If you take a photo at this moment, it is absolutely beautiful. There is no tall gate at the entrance of the school, only a simple iron gate with the door leading to knowledge written on it. Lu Feng walked in with a few people, and there were no security guards. They were walking around on the lawn. The black security guards in the teaching building had already noticed these people. "Hey! Dude, what are you doing?" he said, striding towards Lu Feng. "We want to give a speech here, don't be nervous." Feng Xiao has lived overseas, and he saw the black security guard put his hand on his waist. This is a vigilant action. Lu Feng looked at the black people walking by, and found that the students who were walking not far away also stopped. They were not familiar with this school and did not know where the most people gathered. "Brother, don't be nervous, we're here for you," Lu Feng said to Wang Yuanhe and the three behind him. "Pull up the banner and give me the handheld loudspeaker." Lu Feng took the loudspeaker, but ignored the black security guard at all, and shouted loudly to the students not far away, "I have a dream, I hope that life can be equal, no matter black or white, everyone can live with dignity, do you agree? If you agree, you should join me at this moment." When the black security guard heard this, with a smile on his face, he stepped forward to give Lu Feng a hug and said, "You are amazing, brother." The students in the distance looked at Lu Feng with some embarrassment and said, "We need to go to class." "What class?" "The world needs you now. Please remember this book's first domain name. Yin Yang Agent mobile version reading website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 851. As soon as the students heard this, the world seemed less important than the class. A group of people gathered here. Lu Feng waved his hand, and asked Wang Yuanhe and the others to follow him with the banner. "The world has been unfair for too long. We need everyone to give them some attention and love," Lu Feng shouted with a loudspeaker. "Let the discrimination get out of our beautiful home. Let discrimination get out of our beautiful home." The students shouted emotionally, and some of the boys were very excited. While shouting, they raised their hands to the top of their heads and clapped their hands. Lu Feng knows the culture here very well. It's too easy to be called if you find the right topic. Too many adolescents want to take this opportunity to show themselves. They are not like people in China, where people are squeamish, and their personalities are mostly introverted and reserved. Instead, they are good at doing such things. Sometimes they don't even need any goals and slogans. They can make up an absurd reason and slogan on the street to get people to join in. As for the success of fanning the flames, whether it is to fish for fish or to loot and smash, then no one knows. Feng Xiao felt embarrassed to be around Lu Feng. He had seen this kind of activity when he was studying abroad before, but he just watched from a distance. All kinds of words that stimulate people, the crowd is getting bigger and bigger, and the emotions are getting more and more excited. Wang Yuanhe and the three bravely held the banner, and they were really afraid that something would happen. "You guys slow down and stay away from President Lu. If the school manager comes out in a while, it's really going to be a fight, so it's better to run faster." Ngoy looked at the large team of dozens of people and said, "There are so many people, and they are all students. It shouldn't be so, isn't it a success now? Success is a shit, people are such a good school, how can the school let a bunch of people outside the school mess around, Lu Yulong considered according to the thinking of domestic campuses. The three of them reached an agreement, their footsteps slowly slowed down, and they followed closely behind. The students in the class who were in class also saw the scene outside the window, and some who didn't want to go to class started to get excited. In front of the teaching building, Lu Feng stood on a high platform and led everyone to continue shouting slogans. There were even people below who encouraged others to attack the classroom, thinking that we were doing such a great thing, but they were sitting in the classroom so indifferent and still thinking about the class. Lu Feng also had to sigh with emotion, these people are really engraved in their bones. The gathering of nearly 100 people has attracted the attention of the school. A black woman with a slightly bloated figure came out, followed by 7 or 8 white people, hurried to the side, and shouted, "Security guard! Where's the security guard?" The security guards have all gathered in front of Lu Feng, no one cares. Seeing the woman coming out, Wang Yuan hurriedly said, "The woman in the school office has come out, and this time is over." And Jia saw the aggrieved look on the woman's face. It was this woman who scolded them all the way out of the school in the morning, how ugly the words were. The three looked at each other and took 2 steps back one after another, wanting to tell Lu Feng, but he stood there talking emotionally and didn't listen at all. For someone from a foreign country, something is going to happen this time. Wang Yuan took a step back and muttered, he wouldn't pay much for the boss, the guns here don't have eyes. What are you doing? The black woman came over and saw the 3 people holding the banner for the first time, and shouted, "It's you 3 again, I'll tell you now, leave immediately." Lu Feng looked at the black woman and asked with a loudspeaker, "Who are you?" "I'm the director of the school office, don't disturb the normal order of the school, please leave immediately, or we will take measures," the woman said firmly. After all, there were all students at the scene, and when I saw the leader coming, my emotions were suppressed all of a sudden. Lu Feng glanced at the woman and asked with a loudspeaker, "Let me ask you a question. Are you black? Are you willing to speak up for racism? You have a good life, a good working environment here, and a good salary, so you don't care about the lives of other people, do you? You have disturbed the normal order of the school, please leave, now warn you. You're also a black man, but you don't want to speak up, and you are here to help the tyrants. It's just because you went to the top, so you are here to talk to us from a high position." Lu Feng raised his arms and shouted with a loudspeaker, "Don't discriminate. Don't oppress. We are justice, no one can stop us, she is a traitor." In an instant, the crowd was excited. Among them, 4 or 5 white girls had red eyes and roared against the faces of black women, "You know that history, you don't care, you only care about your job and salary. You betrayed us." The students in the classroom became excited, opened the windows and started shouting, the whole school was about to boil, facing the mighty voice of condemnation. The black woman didn't dare to be tough for a moment, trying to explain that it was her job, the students in class. But the insults had completely drowned her out. A black man actually stood on the opposite side of history and on the opposite side of justice. This is unforgivable. The other black people are calm, but the white people are the most excited. Such a funny scene, it can only be seen here. When Wang Yuan and the 3 saw the woman being scolded, they didn't dare to speak back, and even almost cried. The 3 of them were already dumbfounded. On the same day, the difference between them and Lu Feng's coming here could be so big, they really couldn't imagine. Early in the hotel, Lu Feng told Wang Yuan that you need to use your brains to find a way. At that time, Wang Yuan and the 3 had a unified mind. As a leader, standing and talking didn't hurt his back, and a light sentence would deny himself useless. Now it seems that it is indeed not my own ability. As the first student ran out of the classroom, more and more people rushed out, and more people gathered in front of the teaching building, and even started to lose control, because Lu Feng heard a woman shouting in the chaos, "Someone touched her ass. Everyone, be quiet, we gathered here today to achieve justice. You are all top students in the university. The future belongs to you, but we must reject discrimination. Maybe you think I am not qualified because I am a yellow race, but it is because I am a yellow race that I am more qualified." Standing on a high place with a loudspeaker, Lu Feng said provocatively, "I have 1/8 black blood flowing in my body. I lived in the United States for 10 years. Discrimination made me have no choice but to leave. When I go back, I feel that it is not right. Do we have to endure discrimination in the face of discrimination? No. We should resist, take up our weapons, and resist. Resist." The scene was already crowded with people shouting excitedly, and they seemed to be very good. Lu Feng told them about his experience of being discriminated against. His life was full of twists and turns. The family is particularly difficult. When he was 18 years old, he felt that something was wrong with him. Later, he found out that he actually recognized himself as a woman. A year later, he found out that he was of the same sex. These identities made everyone at the scene look at Lu Feng in grief. Feng Xiao was quite sleepy at first, but now he is extraordinarily energetic. He walked out with his head lowered. When he walked out of the crowd, he saw Wang Yuanhe and 3 people holding the banner and had been stunned. "President Feng, I didn't expect that President Lu would have so many unknown stories." Lu Yulong's expression was not clear, he was wrinkled. Feng Xiao burst out laughing and said in a low voice, "Just listen, Brother Feng doesn't know what to do this time, but there is one thing I really admire about him: no matter which country he goes to, he can do it all. Quickly find the point of this country." Lu Feng wiped his tears from the bottom of his speech. He spent half an hour making up a story about being discriminated against here, and finally had to go to Huaxia and come back again after his success in starting a business. "I'm standing here today to say aloud to the discriminators, I'm back, I'll never back down. Once they called me a poor man, I was a coward, I always needed to look up to them. But now I want to tell them, one piece of your clothes costs thousands of dollars," Lu Feng roared, pointing to his trousers. There were whistles and cheers at the scene, and the excitement seemed to be wearing thousands of dollars in trousers. The emotions were almost provoked, and Lu Feng said to the crowd, "From the time I set foot on this land again, I plan to establish an anti-discrimination association to spread peace to the world. Are you willing to join?" Everyone at the scene shouted their willingness. Everyone here is like this. There are many messy associations and societies. After joining, there is no follow-up. Lu Feng is very clear: go directly to them and tell them to join the company or research and development. They will definitely not join, or even turn against the tide on the spot. First pull these people in the name of anti-discrimination, then conduct talent screening, and finally spend money lure. Lu Feng has a very good understanding of the situation in the United States. Anti-discrimination is a business, and this business is still a good seller even after 20 years. Wang Yuanhe and the others hurriedly went to register these students. At the same time, the school officials were also staring at Lu Feng. They didn't know what Lu Feng came from, so they didn't dare to make any big moves for a while. Lu Feng walked down and whispered to Wang Yuanhe and the 3, "Leave your name, contact information, and the professional grade you belong to, and leave as soon as possible. Please remember this book's first domain name. Yin Yang Agent mobile version reading website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 852. The group of people moved very quickly. They quickly registered and left when the crowd was chaotic. It was past 1 o'clock noon and the sun was shining. They found a Western restaurant and sat down to prepare a simple meal. After ordering, Wang Yuan he looked a bit embarrassed as the three of them sat there. From time to time, he looked at Lu Feng as if he had something to say. If you have anything to say, our company is different from other companies in that it does not have such a serious relationship between superiors and subordinates. I am also a young man, so I can say anything. Lu Feng congratulated Wang Yuan. And Jia said shyly, I think you are very powerful today. We were scolded directly when we went there in the morning. I thought you would have similar results, but I didn't expect it to be completely different from us. I want to apologize to you. Wang Yuan he also looked at Lu Feng with some embarrassment and said, when you said this in the morning, I was actually quite unhappy. Lu Feng laughed and said, do you think I stand and talk without back pain? I have also worked at work and know that feeling, but when you encounter a problem, you have to find a way. The smoother it is, the strength will break everything. Lu Yulong said from the side, Mr. Lu, what do you do after writing down the information about these people? Let's get an anti-discrimination association or a public welfare fund later, and then register a research and development company here, Lu Feng said solemnly. Feng Xiao thought for a moment, and his eyes lit up when he looked at Lu Feng. It is estimated that only Brother Feng could think of such a method, and he said, Brother Feng, your move is really high, and reverse investment is from there. Take investment, but you are investing in the United States. Lu Feng looked at the people at the table, lit a cigarette, pinched the cigarette with his 2 fingers and said, what do you think is the most valuable thing in this day and age? Some people say technology, some people say marketing, some people say marketing. It's not right. Talent is the most important thing now. Money is not important. Is money a thing? Lu Feng leaned back on his chair and said, for me, money is not important at all. You may have been in the company for a short time, you ask Xiao, I'm not short of money. Feng Xiao saw that he was going to show off with these new employees, and said, you don't know Mr. Lu, he's not bad for money. As long as he is willing, billions are trivial. Billions are trivial? Wang Yuan he and Jia and Lu Yulong had never heard of such a large number at the dining table. The little girl and Jia opened her mouth in shock. They know that the company is very big, but no matter how big it is not a trivial matter to have billions of dollars, right? Lu Feng took a puff of cigarette, raised his hand and pressed it down, and said, it's a bit crazy to say this. A few billions can't be considered a trivial meaning, it's a medium meaning. As soon as these words came out, everyone seemed to be even more mad. As the food was ready, Lu Feng asked Wang Yuan he to take the time to contact other colleges and universities. At the very least, he had to find out where the main entrance was and where the most students were. At the same time, let them find an agency to help register the company, and they want to take root in New York. It was already after 2 o'clock in the afternoon after dinner. Lu Feng was so sleepy that he yawned and went back to sleep. Before going to bed, he instructed the people under his command to call Liukan during the daytime in China. R/U0026D bases and talents all over the world. These are all recruited under the banner of the R/U0026D company. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Lu Feng couldn't take it anymore, so he took a shower and fell asleep. Sun Hongkai's team contacted the people from Goldman Sachs and had already informed them of their itinerary. Eisen looked at the folder in his hand, raised his brows, and said to the secretary standing opposite, notify the people from GFN Electronics, we will meet tomorrow, and at the same time, call over the person in charge of the company that was selected a few days ago, let's meet together. Okay, the secretary came out holding the folder. When darkness shrouded the most modern city in the world, it was different from China. When the lights came on, it was the same as the country in 20 years. The prosperity has always been there, but we are catching up step by step. The night fell in the United States, the sun rose in the east, Su Yurong held a morning meeting. Discussions are underway on contacting companies such as Merrill Lynch and Lehman Brothers. In Europe, a 3-person team was sent out, and they were worried in the city of London. They were not familiar with this place. Although there were large financial companies who opened a door here, they didn't gain anything after one day, and they just closed the door. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the team leader Zhang Lin was sitting on the side of the road, and the remaining 2 were also annoyed. Just looking for it like this, people don't pay attention to us at all. We are like salesmen now, and their leaders don't see us at all. That's right, call the company. The company also said that it will only be given for a week. Don't have any trouble. It's so annoying, I can't do anything anyway, it's all over, why don't you go to the square to feed the pigeons? The 3 of them whispered, discussing whether to call the company or not. What should I say? A man with a Chinese face came over and looked at the 3 of them. He looked like he was in his 40s, and said, "You are from China. Come." Ah, Zhang Lin raised her head and saw the man. When she met a man who spoke Mandarin in a foreign country, it was almost like seeing a relative. Zhang Lin hurriedly stood up and said, "Yeah, it's only been 2 days since we arrived. Why did you come here to play? This is the financial city, it's all a company, and it's not much fun." The man seemed to want to help them, and said, "Have a taxi and go north." "No, we came here to find a financial company." Zhang Lin briefly explained the situation. "Wow, is there such a strong private enterprise in China now? Then you are lucky to meet me." The man smiled and said, "I just work in a financial company." Zhang Lin was afraid that the other party would work in a small business, so she asked, "Which company are you in?" "It's the one not far away," the man pointed. Another little girl saw a particularly luxurious office building with a sign in German, but English below, and said, "Schroeder? Never heard of it." "Schroeder?" Zhang Lin was shocked and said in surprise, "You work at Schroeder?" "Yeah, it's a good mix. Now it's just the executive vice president. Go and sit down." "You're tired," the man greeted, "go in and drink a glass of water." The 3 of Zhang Lin nodded, and now they know what it means to break through the iron shoes and find nowhere to go without effort. The next day, New York. Yesterday, Lu Feng did such a big thing at the university. Today, there is no news at all. It is not because the media here is not developed, but because this kind of thing is staged several times a day, and it is as common as eating and drinking. There is really no need to report. At 4 or 5 in the morning, everyone who went to bed early woke up and stayed in bed until 7 o'clock. During breakfast time, Lu Feng greeted everyone, grabbed some breakfast and sat down. While he was eating, Zhen Kun sat across from him, looked at Lu Feng and said, "Mr. Lu, early, how do you feel?" "The jet lag should be reversed," Lu Feng said without raising his head. "Just now, there was news from Goldman Sachs, saying that they wanted to see us. At 10:30 in the morning, Wall Street asked them to prepare the information and adjust your status." Zhen Kun looked at Lu Feng and said, "I'm going to visit a man on behalf of Mr. Feng today. Old friend, I also help you sort out your contacts. Remember, no matter what the situation is, control your emotions. Are we begging people to understand now? Don't worry, how many times have you said that from Xiangjiang to here, you still don't know me? Besides, I am more concerned about this financing than you," Lu Feng said to him. Zhen Kun was relieved when he heard Lu Feng's assurance like a primary school student. He didn't go, but Feng Xiao went. Zhen Kun also instructed Feng Xiao to remind Lu Feng more. Feng Xiao also agreed. All the staff made full preparations, including the prospectus, corporate development, development direction, future prospects, and the rate of return after success. They were fully prepared. They set off from the hotel at 10 o'clock in the morning and went straight to the Goldman Sachs Group headquarters on Wall Street. Everyone here has a cup of coffee, and everyone looks like an elite. Since Wall Street is not a spacious street, the doors of major companies are relatively small. Lu Feng entered the door and went upstairs according to the above agreement. He was led into a parlor by a clerk with blonde hair and blue eyes in business clothes. Except for Lu Feng and Feng Xiao, everyone else was waiting downstairs. Okay, just wait here, don't run around, understand. The clerk's face was not very good looking, so he left Lu Feng and Feng Xiao behind and left. Lu Feng glanced at the appearance of a dozen people in the living room, all of them in suits and leather shoes, and they didn't look like simple people. Why does it feel like I owe him money? This clerk's attitude is in our company and has long been fired, Feng Xiao said unhappily. Let's talk less, it's someone else's territory after all. Lu Feng looked at the people present. The people present were also looking at Lu Feng. The youngest of them should be in his 40s. It seemed that Lu Feng and Feng Xiao should not be here. You also came to submit the prospectus? Asked a thin man in his 50s. Yes, Lu Feng seemed to sense something and asked, you all came to submit the prospectus? Everyone present nodded, their faces were full of dissatisfaction, and they obviously felt that they were being neglected. They were also a first-class company in their own country, so they came here to sit on the bench. And some people have been waiting for almost an hour without even a glass of water. This is simply humiliating. Lu Feng asked briefly, there are Malaysia, Thailand, South Africa, Singapore, and France, which can be said to be all over the world. From this, we can see how attractive Wall Street is. Lu Feng waited until 11 o'clock. Some people were very popular, so he got up and left, but most of the people stayed. The door suddenly opened, and two clerks walked in. They stood there and said, Vice President Eisen is very busy. You only have 1 hour. I hope you can briefly introduce your company, future plans, etc. Okay, you guys. Get ready, Eisen will be here soon. The Thai man sitting on the sofa got angry, stood up and shouted, didn't you say that we are talking about Lambert? What is Eisen? After waiting for so long, you don't even have a glass of water, that's your attitude. Please remember this book's first domain name. Yin Yang Agent mobile version reading website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 853. Hearing this, the clerk didn't care at all, twiddled his hair, and said to the Thai, this is what it is here, don't let your rich identity play a part here, I tell you that this street is the most lacking. The rich are the rich, and if you feel uncomfortable, you can leave. The manly eyes of the Thai turned green, but in the end he could only murmur a few times and sat down. Seeing him cowardly, the others didn't dare to speak more. As for those who couldn't stand it, they had already left. It can be said that after waiting for this hour, the candidates they wanted had already been initially screened. Feng Xiao sat next to Lu Feng and said in a low voice, no wonder Uncle Kun told us to bear it, if Uncle Kun hadn't said it, I would have left already, and these people feel that they are powerful when they have money, as if anyone is close to that. It's like money. Lu Feng turned his face slightly to look at Feng Xiao and said in a low voice, those present, if you guessed correctly, which one is not the number one existence in their country, do you really think they are short of money? Isn't it all about financing? I'm not short of money, what are you missing? Feng Xiao wondered. Lack of support. Let me tell you, these people all want to make their business international. What is an international? The US is an international, understand? When Lu Feng was talking to Feng Xiao, two more clerks walked in and asked everyone to stand up and stand in a line, and Eisen would arrive immediately. These rich and powerful people in various countries are now as well behaved as kindergarten children. Everyone is angry, but reason tells them to endure. Lu Feng was standing beside the old Thai brother. His skin was dark and his face was very aggrieved, but he still stood here. What do you do? Lu Feng asked in a low voice. The old man raised his head and glanced at Lu Feng, and said, rubber, chemical industry, how about you? Fortunately, I am an electronics engineer, from Huaxia, Jiafeng Electronics. Lu Feng gave a brief introduction. Songpa Saipan, a Thai, he sighed softly, if you don't want to do international business, it would be insulting to be so angry here. The international market needs to come here for financing, Lu Feng asked. No, the international business has been doing it all the time, and it has only expanded in the past 2 years. As a result, several boats have been detained because of some messy terms. This is the way these bird people are. When you grow up, they want to get your hands on it. What kind of international law and violating sanctions are used to make money out of you? Songpa said, the more and more angry. Lu Feng could see that this old man is definitely a good guy in China, but unfortunately he can't get up here. I want to ask something more. Someone came in at the door, a yellow-skinned man in his 40s, with a pair of black-rimmed glasses on his face, and a rather arrogant expression on his face. I would like to introduce to you, this is Mr. Eisen, General Manager of Goldman Sachs Investment Management. Mr. Eisen has only 1 hour. I hope you will mainly introduce your company's main development prospects, development model, and market share. Proportion. The clerk glanced at So-man and said, next, Mr. Eisen, please have a chat with everyone. Eisen glanced at the faces of these people, his eyes fixed on Lu Feng. He snorted coldly, and said slowly, first of all, I welcome you all here, you are all leaders in emerging global companies, but I still want to tell you. Hundreds of investment companies on Wall Street invest no less than 500 companies around the world every year, so how many of these 500 companies can survive? Let me tell you, within a year, half of them will fail, and within 5 years, only half will remain. There are less than 10, but these 10 can grow into large companies that attract global attention. With such a low success rate, we need to ensure that our money will not be abused. According to our investment method, first of all, after accepting the investment, we need to hand over all the means of production. Of course, these means of production will be strictly kept. Will not flip randomly. Secondly, we need to relocate the headquarters to the United States, so that we can use our resources as much as possible for you, and if there is any problem, we can communicate as soon as possible. Third, we need to hold no less than 30% of the shares. Of course, we will definitely not interfere with the management of your company, or you should manage it yourself. These 3 points are the most basic 3 points, can anyone not accept it? Half of the people in the line walked away swearing. Feng Xiao said in a low voice, isn't this a humming robbery? That's right, it's Ming robbery, what can you do? Lu Feng whispered, you didn't see it, we've entered the wolf's den. Eisen had been paying attention to Lu Feng, and when he saw him talking to Feng Xiao in a low voice, he coughed and said, you too, do you have so much to say? Do you know how to respect people? This is something to be proud of, I tell you, you are nothing. I didn't see Lambert, but saw some bullshit general manager. These people were already full of fire in their hearts. Now they are being reprimanded like elementary school students. Feng Xiao couldn't help it. They are here to raise money, not to get angry. Feng Xiao stared at Eisen with anger in his eyes, and said solemnly, can't you talk? We are here to raise funds, not to be disciplined. It's the rule to come and raise money. If you can't stand it, you can leave. Eisen picked up the folder in his hand, pointed to the door and said, the door is open to you. You humming think I want to stay here? What the hell are you arrogant as a bad manager? I tell you, if you were in my company, you would have smashed your head long ago. Feng Xiao looked a little emotional. All right, Lu Feng hurriedly pulled Feng Xiao and said, Uncle Kun told me to not tolerate this kind of conflict. When Feng Xiao heard this, the anger in his heart was suppressed. Jenkin told him to look at Lu Feng, but he couldn't bear it anymore. The main reason was that Eisen was so arrogant. It seemed worthless in front of him. In the past, even if I saw a big person, there would not be any contempt in the eyes, but in Eisen's eyes, it seemed that these people present, except him, were not worthy of being human, that kind of arrogance. Can't wait to be slapped in the face. Are you also an overseas Chinese? We are from China, Lu Feng said towards Eisen. Eisen raised his brows when he heard this, and the others became nervous when they saw that Lu Feng was getting close to AI senator. The amount of money Lambert had in his hand was fixed, and if he voted for Zhang San, Li CK would be gone. What about Huaxias? Now is the time to talk about business, and I'm still from Earth. That's right, everyone invests based on their strength. Is it interesting to say that your skin color is interesting? I'm still black. Everyone was chatting, and the words came towards Lu Feng. The scene was a bit noisy, and the words of the crowd made Lu Feng a little embarrassed. They frowned slightly and said, "It seems that this is not the time to talk about me." Everyone continue. Listen to what General Manager Eisen has to say. Eisen looked at Lu Feng with a playful look, stretched out a finger, waved it, and said, "No. No. No. Ever since my dad took the oath to join the United States, I have nothing to do with that place. Not to mention that I was born in the United States. Let me tell you, your skin color is not a plus point for you, but a minus point." When everyone heard this, they all turned to Lu Feng. It was not easy for them to find investment. Without such a young competitor, how could everyone be unhappy? Hearing this, Lu Feng was not annoyed, and said, "You should still be able to understand Chinese. Look at my mouth shape, idiot." Eisen frowned slightly, not knowing what he meant, and said, "Okay, with these three conditions, the next step is lunch, but unfortunately there is no preparation for you. If you can accept it, then I will talk about it separately in the afternoon. The most suitable companies for investment will be selected and submitted, and then you will meet with Lambert." After a morning of waiting, it was exchanged for such a light-hearted sentence, which made everyone feel dissatisfied, but no matter how dissatisfied, what could it be? Those who come here are all fat sheep to be slaughtered. Never expect that Wall Street investors will buy a company at a high valuation. They will only pick up bargains around the world. If there are no bargains, they will create bargains. Lu Feng went downstairs. A group of people who were reprimanded like elementary school students just now are surrounded by bodyguards and secretaries standing behind them. They are all imposing, and those who don't know think he just finished the board meeting upstairs. The old Thai brother came over and said to Lu Feng, "Would you like to have some?" "No, we have other things to do." Lu Feng found an excuse and pushed it away. "Where's your bodyguard? It's better to be careful when you go out." "If you go to Thailand, you can find me," Songpa politely said. "Mr. Lu is so young, he must have a bright future. It's not like me, just doing some rubber. Now the international, when you were strangled by someone, you have to bow your head if you don't. I don't know how much I can borrow. It was really uncomfortable just now. If I go to Thailand, I will definitely find you," Lu Feng politely. The invitation was very enthusiastic. In the end, he didn't give Lu Feng a business card, let alone the address. Everyone knew it well, but he was polite and polite. "Let's go, find a place to eat," Lu Feng said to everyone behind him. "Mr. Lu, are you angry when you go up?" Wang Yuan, he couldn't believe it, but judging from the chat content of the boss just now, it seemed that he was not feeling well. And Jia Y and Lu Yulong were also a little shocked. They imagined that a meeting of this level would be conducted on the basis of high-end etiquette in a luxurious office. "Get angry," Feng Xiao snorted coldly. "I want to fight that stupid comparison. Forget it, let's go to dinner, talk about that Eisen alone in the afternoon. Won't you be like that?" "How do I know? The three of them should be able to go up in the afternoon." Lu Feng looked at the three, eager to try, smiled, and said, "Let me show you how the world-class business negotiation is going. Let's have dinner first." Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 854. Wang Yuan He and Jia Wei and Lu Yulong were very excited. They had just graduated for a year, and they were able to see international business negotiations. This was definitely a thing that excited them. They could at least brag about it for several years when they went back. Wall Street's negotiating table is all-powerful. I randomly found a Western restaurant and ordered a few dishes. Lu Feng asked about the order he ordered to call Lu Chen yesterday. Wang Yuan he said that he had been notified, and they contacted the agency to register the company, find a venue, organization opening, here is a one-stop. And Jia Wei didn't care about eating, she flipped through the folder in her hand, hoping to memorize the situation in the offering book as much as possible. At the same time, she hoped that she would be able to answer the other party in fluent English, which is definitely a brilliant way. Don't read it, let's eat, the prospectus is nothing to see, Lu Feng said to Jia Wei. Mr. Lu, I still think it's better to write down the contents as much as possible, and it's best to find some beautiful words in English vocabulary. This makes us look more upscale and sincere, Jia Wei said very seriously. No, it's not sincere, it's not interesting, let's eat, we'll know when we go in the afternoon, Lu Feng instructed Jia Wei. He could see that the three young people were extremely excited. Wang Yuan he kept raising his head to look at Lu Feng, obviously wanting to ask what he should pay attention to, for fear that he had done something wrong. After dinner, Lu Feng and his party went upstairs and were placed in a parlor. This time, some tea and cakes were served, but people had just finished their meal, so they didn't want to eat. Lu Yulong held back for a long time, and finally couldn't help but whispered to Feng Xiao and asked, President Feng, what etiquette should I pay attention to in a while? I have attended it, and I am afraid that there will be some rudeness that will have a bad impact on the company. Don't worry, there are not many things, Feng Xiao comforted casually. Seeing that they were nervous, Lu Feng said, don't be nervous, it's just a bunch of foreign devils, not to mention the two devils we are talking about. The people at noon came one after another. At 2 o'clock, the buddies from South Africa were invited in and chatted for an hour. The other party came out with a happy face, followed by the buddies from Malaysia. After waiting until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Songpa, who was sitting in the living room next door, couldn't wait any longer. He opened the door on Lu Feng's side and said, Damn, these bastards, are we here for an interview? Go in one by one. What do you think of us? You don't have to be impatient, bro, it's all here anyway, please wait, what can you do if you don't wait? Lu Feng looked at him and asked. Songpa sighed and said, those of us who are manipulated by others will not have a good life. These people in suits and shoes look like people, but in fact they are not a thing. Even if I am worth 1 billion yuan. You also have to bow your head, brother, if you are just short of money, there is absolutely no need to suffer this crime. Wang Yuan he looked at the man standing at the door in disbelief. His English had a taste of Thai. He even stood at the door and scolded him just now. Who would have thought that this was a billionaire boss? Lu Feng felt that this old man still wanted to show off his worth, especially when he went downstairs at noon. He kept telling him that Lu Feng didn't have a bodyguard. Actually, I'm not short of money, I just want to come and see. Lu Feng looked at him and said. I see that you are young, and the business is not big. There is really no need for small businesses to come here for financing. If it wasn't because of international issues, but simply lack of money, I can help you solve it. Songpa walked in and asked, holding a cigarette, he said, transnational investment can also be done under the name of my company. You better take care of your rubber plantation, we are not short of money, Feng Xiao said. Not bad for money. Today, when Lu Feng and Feng Xiao first walked in, these people began to discuss these two people quietly. What kind of business can these two young guys make, and they came here to raise money. In their minds, they raised money here. They are all national leaders. Either the company has done too much and was targeted by Wall Street, trying to get a piece of the pie from them by various means. Songpa is because the business is too big. Surrender. Lu Feng looks like 25 or 6. Even if he started his business from his mother's womb, he might not catch up with the people present. Lu Feng stretched out his hand to stop Feng Xiao. They just wanted to show off their wealth, there was no need to attack and ridicule. If the financing here is not successful, I might trouble you at that time, Lu Feng said politely. Small things, I still like to help young people. When I was young. Songpa obviously wanted to share with everyone his awesome experience when he was young, but he didn't say anything. Before he could say anything, a woman walked in at the door. This woman is really enchanting, about 1.75 meters tall, wearing a hip-pack skirt and a pair of high-heeled shoes on her feet. The temperament is excellent, and all the men in the room are focused on her in an instant. Even Lu Feng couldn't help but take a second glance. There are many women with good body and handsome looks, but she has a temperament that ordinary women don't have. However, there are water waves rippling, and there is coquettishness in the innocence. Such a woman will be a lure to any man who has only seen her once. Songpa saw the woman walk in, and the men present lost their minds instantly, with a bit of smugness on their faces, secretly thinking that it was a young man after all. What are you doing here? I'm just chatting with them, Songpa said to everyone. Let me introduce you to everyone. This is my girlfriend, Tessa. Say hello to everyone. Sawadika, my name is Tessa, nice to meet you all, Tessa introduced very generously. Lu Feng said a few polite words to others. Wang Yuanhe and Lu Yulong, who had never seen the world, were already blushing, and they lowered their heads and dared not look at each other. Songpa also noticed the shyness of several people and introduced, actually, Tessa is not a woman, but I don't care, he is really gentle. Lu Feng's originally smiling face froze, he glanced at Tessa again, and smiled awkwardly, it's good. In an instant, the original ambiguity in the room dissipated without a trace. Songpa asked Tessa to go back first, and he went back after a while. I think, love is a thing, regardless of age or gender. Lu Feng helped him smooth things out. No, I'll tell you, I've had too many women around me for so many years, I'm tired of it, it's boring, I'm looking for a man, it's too perverted, so I found her, I tell you, it's just right, I'm energetic, I won't feel tired, Songpa proudly said to Lu Feng, you have never felt it before, if you have the opportunity to go to Thailand, you must try it. Ha ha ha, Lu Feng smiled cautiously. He didn't know whether to nod or reject, as if he was caught in a strange topic. The living room was opened, and the clerk walked in, looked at the group of people indifferently and said, it's your turn, get your things ready and go in. Lu Feng stood up and said politely to Songpa, let's talk first, brother, if you have the opportunity to come to Huaxia, I will be the host, and I will definitely treat you well. Good. The two sides greeted him nicely, and Lu Feng did not leave him contact information. After sorting out their mood, the 5 people walked towards the conference room. As they walked, Feng Xiao suddenly burst out laughing, followed by Wang Yuanhe and several others. Lu Feng couldn't help laughing and said, stop laughing, who doesn't have a hobby yet? Entering the conference room, there was a long table with 6 men in their 40s and 50s sitting. The atmosphere was very solemn. In an instant, Wang Yuanhe and the 3 did not dare to smile again. Lu Feng walked over and sat in the opposite seat, looked at Eisen who was directly opposite him, and said with a serious expression, we have come from a long way. Logically speaking, we are guests, it's just your hospitality. It's a bad way. Where are you talking so much? Let me ask you, why didn't you say hello when you entered the door just now? Eisen leaned back on the chair, stared at Lu Feng and asked meanly. As soon as these words came out, Lu Feng's heart sank, and the other party was trying to find fault. So what? Are you unhappy? Lu Feng scolded directly with his hands spread out. It's not over? You can say what you want. I'm here to raise money, not to apply for a job. I don't like your attitude. I told you like this, you can't get our money just like you are. Eisen put the folders in front of him together and said, it's just a small business. You don't need to be arrogant, in front of me, you are nothing. Feng Xiao was full of anger today. He had never seen such a bully since he was a child, and said, then what do you think? Kneel down for you. Pack a few steel shovels in your pockets, and pretend to be big here. Tail wolf. Please pay attention to your words. I have learned about GFN Electronics. It is a very ordinary company. Our valuation to you here is $150 million US. If we want, we will invest $35 million US in shares. Accounting for 35% of the shares, and at the same time you need to hand in all the production materials so that you can be inspected in the event of an important accident, and at the same time, you need to relocate the headquarters here. Eisen raised his hand to hold the glasses frame. Said, how is it? How's it going? Lu Feng put the folder in his hand aside and sneered, I finally know the difference between you and robbery. You don't even leave us any pants. We don't have this financing plan. Agree? Disagree? The man next to him sat up straight and said, okay, no problem, you have to think about it. If you don't agree, your international business may really be gone, and I believe it won't take long. Wait until Motorola, Panasonic, Toshiba, and other companies have entered China in an all-round way, and the day of your demise is not far away. Are you humming threatening me? Lu Feng frowned slightly, with a bit of chill in his voice. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 855. Everyone who came here felt arrogant at first. After all, they were the top beings in their respective countries before, but it was the first time they met someone as arrogant as Lu Feng. Threatening you? No. Eisen leaned back on the chair and said arrogantly, I'm just telling the truth. Don't think you are very strong, with your company's market and technology, in front of international big companies, you are as fragile as paper. Generally, this is the best advice for you. Feng Xiao couldn't help but said, anyway, we are also a cooperative relationship. The two sides cooperate on the basis of respect. It is a two-way choice. Two-way choice? The basis of respect? Ha 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 ha. Eisen glanced at a few people around him and burst into laughter. He looked at Feng Xiao. How could this young man be so naive? He said, I'll tell you, what strength do you have? The strength to build a TV. As soon as these words came out, the laughter at the scene grew even louder. For them, this incident was really funny. If a company that only mastered color TV technology wanted their respect, they laughed out loud. Wang Yuanhe and the three looked embarrassed. They never dreamed that on this international table, they would say such words without any restraint or etiquette. They were even worse than the two strangers they met on the street. They were like a forest. The law is general, the strength is a little weaker, and the other party will not leave any sympathy. Lu Feng stood up and stared at Eisen with gloomy eyes, and said, any company starts out of nothing, it just takes time. You can look down on me, I have also dealt with those international companies you mentioned, but in China, GFN is still the king. I have worked with those companies, and I can do it in China, but when I go to the world, I can still do it. That's it. Tell Lambert, if you want to vote, don't make all this mess. Yes, I know, you can't be the master either, to put it bluntly, you're just a piece of shit. Eisen's original smile froze instantly. He has a yellow skin, and it is not easy to get into the current position here. I don't know how many people are talking about him behind his back. He tried his life to prove that he is an American. How to prove? That is more cruel to the Chinese than the Americans. Snapped. Eisen slapped the table and stood up, his face flushed with embarrassment. He stared at Lu Feng as if he was going to eat people, and shouted, "Who are you calling a bastard? Let me tell you, I'm an upright American. It's your broken company. Worthless, I tell you, don't think you are rich, in my eyes, you are still a frog in the bottom of the well, and the technology of the United States is beyond your reach in your next life. Yo, in a hurry? What are you in a hurry? I don't have time to play with you, you don't count anything." Lu Feng stood up and collected the documents, pointed at the other party with the document in his hand, and said, "Go back. Tell Lambert that the most important thing on Wall Street is investors, and we have never put all our hopes on you. If no one invests, you will regret it. Now that I can kill those international companies and tear down Wall Street years later, it's not impossible." After Lu Feng said hello to everyone, Feng Xiao's face turned green with anger. Today, let alone Wang Yuan, he and the three, even Feng Xiao's illusion about Wall Street has been shattered. The faces of the men around Ai Sen were ashen. The people who came here were not as arrogant as Lu Feng. They looked at Ai Sen, and Ai Sen lost face in an instant. "Just like your dog, you also demolished Wall Street? Let me tell you, you can raise money on Wall Street, and I'll go head down," Eisen shouted to Lu Feng, who had already reached the door. "Put away your face. You don't have the right to yell in front of me. I was born here. No matter how rich you are, you will come from a rubbish third world country." Lu Feng and Feng Xiao's footsteps suddenly stopped, and the two turned their heads to look at Ai Sen. "What are you looking at? Third world country? Isn't your skin also given to you by a third world country?" Lu Feng took a step forward and said, "I don't have much patience with you, don't stop beeping with me here, understand? As long as I don't raise money, you are a bullshit, I can't beg you." Eisen felt the gaze behind him, and said solemnly, "I don't belong there. You came from a garbage country, and this sign will follow you all your life, it can't be washed away. I'm going to Nima." Feng Xiao couldn't take it anymore. Hum him for Lao-Tzu." Lu Feng shouted angrily and rushed out first, followed by Feng Xiao. Wang Yuanhe's eyes were already red with anger. He roared and went to your mother, and rushed up. Only Njia was left standing there at a loss, and wanted to go up and scratch him a few times, but she didn't dare to be abroad. Ai Sen's group sits in the office all year round. What's the stamina? Several people were kicked wildly by the four big boys from Lu Feng's side. Lu Feng took care of Ai Sen alone, and kicked the other's head with the leather shoes on his feet. "Go to Nima, wait, the third world country will one day let you as a shitty world power do it. Did you talk to the Americans like that? You've lived for so many years and haven't eaten a gun. Bull the soft and fear the hard dog thing." Eisen lay there with his hands covering his head and didn't dare to move. He didn't dare to lose his temper in the company, and everyone laughed when he saw him. 10 minutes later, the police took 5 people away from Wall Street. There were a lot of reporters outside. Wall Street was a little troubled, and reporters always arrived at the fastest speed. Since Ai Sen was beaten into the hospital, Mr. Songpa, who was in line behind Lu Feng, was already downstairs. When he saw Lu Feng being taken away by the police, he sighed, "It's really a strong young man, good fight, I've long been displeased with him." Tessa snuggled softly on Songpa's shoulder and said coquettishly, "What a pia." Songpa looked back at his beauty, and said in the same tone, "No pia, let's go home." The media reporters outside stood on 2 walls. When Lu Feng walked out, it was like walking on a red carpet, waving at the crowd with a smile on his face. "I'm from China, I'm a billionaire. Yahoo, Lu Feng screamed at the reporter excitedly. Feng Xiao didn't seem so generous. He covered his face with his hands. He was afraid that the news would spread and his father would see him. He might scold him at that time. Don't cover your face, be generous and make a face with them, Lu Feng ordered. Feng Xiao put down his hand, clasped his mouth, and said to the reporter, "We see him upset, so we beat them up. The world needs righteous people like us. Remember, if life can't be done happily, then I'd rather not exist," Lu Feng said towards the last reporter and was pushed into the police car. The reporter turned his head to the camera and said, "At present, several suspects have been arrested by the police. When they come to other countries, the most notable feature of the suspects is that they are very rich." After being arrested, he simply recorded a statement, and then a police officer came. The other party knew that Lu Feng's gang was very rich, and their attitude was always good, not even a push. "Good evening, sir. I now officially inform you that you are suspected of assaulting others and have been detained by us. We will guarantee your judicial power. Now you can apply for bail, and everyone can leave after paying $50,000 in bail. And a person with a U.S. green card is needed as a bail," he professionally introduced to Lu Feng and several others. At this point, Lu Feng could only call Zhen Kun. As soon as he proposed it, Feng Xiao refused and said, "I have a friend here and I called him, try not to let Uncle Kun know about this." 2 hours later, a young man came. After paying a bail of $250,000, Lu Feng and his group came out. In order to thank the little brother, they had a meal together. "The money for the bail will be given to you in 2 days, Lu Feng patted the other person on the shoulder, watched him leave, and sighed, "The free capital world, it's great to have money, go back." After returning to the hotel, Lu Feng summoned Wang Yuanhe and the three of them, and held a brief meeting in the room. Everyone sat down and lost their previous restraint. After all, they had been in prison with the boss. "Let's put the financing aside first. This matter has a great impact on us, but it is not fatal. Now we will focus on major universities and attract talents as our main task." Lu Feng moved towards Wang Yuan. He said, "Which school did you contact?" "The closest to here is New Jersey, and there is Princeton University, which is very famous." Wang Yuan he thought about it and said, "If you drive there, it will be less than 2 hours drive. I have called them, but there is no good one. Going on an excuse, the usual excuse, the other party will not agree. The excuse is not easy. Just say we want to donate money." Lu Feng looked at the time, it was almost 9 o'clock in the evening, and said, "Just tell them we want to donate money and go tomorrow." "How much do you say to donate?" Njia asked. "The more the better, it's a random number anyway." Lu Feng stood up and yawned, "Just this trip, let's rest early." The next day, the incident of the beating of Goldman Sachs executives was published in the major financial times. First of all, it caused a gust of wind in the industry. The Wall Street Journal also published the incident in a small place. In the breakfast room, Lu Feng sat opposite Zhen Kun and said, "Uncle Kun, how was the meeting with the old friends yesterday?" "Very good. How are you guys talking?" "Didn't you quarrel?" Zhen Kun took a sip of coffee after speaking. In the morning, Feng Xiao had already seen the newspaper, and the faces of Lu Feng and Feng Xiao were clearly photographed on it. This matter could not be covered up, so it is better to admit it. "It's not noisy," Feng Xiao said hesitantly. "Yes, it's just that I'm more excited when I talk, and I don't make much noise," Lu Feng said. "It's fine if there is no quarrel, this is the way the negotiation is, and everyone here is arrogant." Zhen Kun took another sip after speaking. "It's just a fight." Lu Feng looked at Zhen Kun and said, "Several executives should be in the hospital now." Zhen Kun spit out a sip of coffee, raised his head and widened his eyes, looked at the two of them in shock, and shouted, "Didn't I tell you to? Why are you fighting?" "Xiao, I didn't let you pull him, don't be impulsive." Feng Xiao looked confused. I want to smoke him too. It's not Xiao's fault, it's my fault, but it's okay, let them think about it and stay calm. Lu Feng took the fault and said, first we have to hype it up, today's headlines must be ours. The more many investors know that there is a GFN group in Huaxia, the more choices we have. Xiao, bring the newspaper and see if the headline is us. Feng Xiao took a newspaper and glanced at it. Tao Xiao is not us /. How is that possible? What is the headline? Lu Feng asked in surprise. It was a local pianist who was arrested for whoring. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 856. I rely on. Lu Feng made a foul language and took a look at the newspaper. It was really a piano player who found a girl and was arrested. In comparison, it was a celebrity who had an accident. Lu Feng was an ordinary person, not a person. Grade. Brother Feng, it's not on the headlines, why don't we spend some money? Feng Xiao was already familiar with Lu Feng's setup. He just wanted to build momentum and expose GFN Electronics to more targets. As a result, Lu Feng also had the opportunity to choose. No need, it's enough for the financial circle to know. Today I'm going to New Jersey, how about Uncle Kun? Lu Feng asked while eating. What are you going to do in New Jersey? Jenkin looked at Lu Feng and said, if Goldman Sachs doesn't work, you should hurry up to contact other companies. Lambert was optimistic about you at the beginning. He should have known your details. Things are just a little test for you, investment always has a game process. Lu Feng drank the coffee in front of him and said, this is not a game, he just wants to kill me. Tisk, Jenkins said slightly dissatisfied, I said before I came here that we can't have too high expectations on Wall Street, and people with high valuations will not accept it. I came here to find an international backer, not to find money. Okay, I have my own rhythm, I'm done eating. Lu Feng stood up and said, if you don't go, you can rest in the hotel. Xiao going. Go. Feng Xiao seemed to be doing nothing. Jenkin knew that he couldn't control Lu Feng at all. The things he planned before coming here are the same as if he didn't say anything now. They have their own plans. He wanted to say a few more words, but he was afraid of angering Lu Feng and being scolded, so let him go. Try not to cause trouble anymore. During this time, I was in contact with the executives of Lehman Brothers. Maybe I can introduce you to me, Zhen Kun said to Lu Feng. Don't worry, you don't know me yet. Lu Feng got up and went back to the room. At 9 o'clock in the morning, Lu Feng and his entourage got on the highway and drove towards New Jersey. The agency in New York can do all the services on behalf of you. Here, as long as you have money, there is nothing hard to get you, even the law. The Anti-Discrimination Association has been successfully registered. At the same time, Lyokan has contacted several companies through intermediaries to help register branch offices and recruit basic employees. All of them can help. The list in the hands of Wang Yuanhe and several people has been sent back to China by mail. The R/U0026D company set up a temporary team to analyze these students, and at the same time transferred a few people from the Talent Reserve Center to assist in processing. Formed an expatriate team, and will fly to New York tomorrow to establish a branch in New York to absorb these high-quality talents. Eisen was beaten not too badly, with scratches on his skin and a slight concussion. He stayed in the hospital for one night and came out. The cost was not too big, $8,000. Lambert arrived at the company at 10 o'clock. It doesn't matter whether a big man like him comes to work or not. The newspaper and coffee on the desk are ready and everything is in order. He sat down and took a sip of coffee, flipped through today's financial news, frowned slightly when he saw the news that Lu Feng called Eisen, picked up the phone on the table, and said, "Is Eisen there?" "He just arrived at the company, and his condition is not very good." "Let him come to my office," Lambert said and put down the phone. He looked at some details of the report with a playful look on his face. After a while, there was a knock on the office door, and Eisen walked in. His face was a little red and swollen, and he looked quite embarrassed. Lambert glanced at him and said with a smile on his face, "Sit down, it's hard work, Eisen." "It's not hard work, I can only say that people like Lu Feng who come from a backward place have really poor quality. I didn't expect such a thing to happen, and the other party has no understanding of himself at all. The valuation is too high, and there is no such thing as investment value," Eisen said. "Eisen, if I remember correctly, are you from that country too?" Lambert asked. No. I'm an authentic American. My parents moved here. I was born here. I'm no different from other Americans," Eisen hurriedly corrected. "Okay," Lambert's eyes showed a touch of contempt, and he brought the topic back to work and said, "Do you think investment can be negotiated in one go? Let me tell you, the first time I came here, I didn't want to talk to me at all. He talks." Eisen was helping Lambert for the first time. His eyes lit up and he said, "Are you just going to play him?" "No. I need to make him recognize himself. Now he will definitely not sell his equity at a low price. No fool will agree. I need to make him see the reality clearly. When he is desperate, he will accept everything," Lambert said lightly, which seemed to be his usual method. "What if GFN Electronics develops well?" Eisen worried. "Isn't that missing a high-quality enterprise?" No. Lambert stood up and looked at the street outside the window and said, "There is no Wall Street in this world, no one can grow up, I tell you this, the energy on this street is beyond your imagination. We can't decide who grows up, but we can decide who doesn't grow up, not to mention that he is a small business now. Even if it grows into a global giant, it will collapse with a bang. So Lu Feng must surrender." Eisen's expression changed and he said, "Then we don't need to pay attention to him. When he hits the south wall, he will come back by himself. No, we need to tell the rest of Wall Street that we are optimistic about this company, first hit the valuation, and then destroy his spirit, grind his fangs, put on the rope, and accept the arrangement of fate," said Lambert, standing at the window. A smile appeared on Eisen's face. When he thought of Lu Feng's ending like this, he couldn't say how happy he was. Following Lambert's words, he said, "Let him be our money-making lackey. This week, pay more attention to other trends. As for other companies, as long as they are willing to hand over part of their equity, they should sign the contract," Lambert ordered. "The rubber company in Thailand, we are going to sign, the other party is willing to give 25% of the equity, this company still has a lot of international orders, the prospects are very promising, and it is not in vain for us to work so long," Eisen said happily. Lambert turned his head and nodded, just instructed him to stare at GFN Electronics more, and let him rest. In China, everything is operating in an orderly manner. Zhu Lidong also returned to the company after his business trip. A complete process has been formed for cooperation with counties and cities. The sales of Wipita TV were quickly pulled up. Originally, the price war with the bayonet was red. Because the other companies were deeply trapped in the quagmire of the Northern Development Economic Zone, now several companies are busy with lawsuits and want to get their goods and money back. The price war has also stalled, and now it has completely formed the confrontation between the two giants of Wipita and Changhong. As the Talent Reserve Center began to be divided into 4 colleges, coupled with the US Green Card, the attractiveness of fresh students has risen sharply. Wei Yandan held a special meeting and made arrangements for attracting talents at the meeting. In short, it doesn't work. What is the way to bring high-caliber talents into the Talent Reserve Center? Go out and brag as much as you want, as long as you can attract people and don't break the law, you can do whatever you want. GFN's people are still capable. Graduation season has arrived, and they are rushing into major colleges and universities frantically. Whether they are facing schools, teachers, or students, they are all coaxing and deceiving. Many social commentators have said that GFN's recruiting model is like a locust, first advocating a bright future for students, and after recruiting into the talent reserve center, intensive training and classes, instilling corporate culture, and creating fantasy bubbles are social worms. There are constant crusades in the society, whether it is Lufeng or GFN's senior management, they don't care anymore. Now there is a lack of talents, and there is a lack of generals who have the ability to lead GFN into battle. Those companies that insulted GFN began to form their own teams and contact universities while scolding. Wei Yandan's work is proceeding in an orderly manner, but she also has a headache. The Nokia European headquarters keeps calling, and the two parties have already called the court. This matter is so noisy that some people even come out and say that cooperation with GFN is tantamount to make skin with a tiger. The court knew that Xiang GFN didn't need to ask, and the matter was dragged on. When GFN Electronics was able to drag it, Nokia could not afford it. After this incident spread to Europe, it was portrayed by its competitors as detaining hundreds of millions of products due to quality problems. For a time, the quality of Nokia's products was brought to the forefront. Don't talk about Elmi now, even her father has nothing to do. The initiative is in the hands of others. Every time I make a phone call, they say that Lufeng is studying in the United States, and I will talk about it when I get back. Nokia executives held 6 or 7 meetings, and finally decided that this matter could not go through legal channels and would drag the entire company to death. Reconciliation with Lufeng was the only way out. Since the matter was caused by the Ermai women, let them clean up the mess and demand that all sales channels in Huaxia be restored within half a month, as well as the cooperation with GFN Electronics. Dad, what should I do? I can't find him at all now. Elmi's voice was full of tears. She couldn't figure out why this man suddenly lost interest in him. He was so cruel. Book a flight, let's talk to him in person. Now that this is the case, we have to lower our posture. Elmi sighed, that was the only way to do it. She always felt that beauty could conquer everything. Lufeng taught her a solid lesson this time. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 857. Watanabe, who has been closely watching Lufeng's movements, immediately learned the news of Aizen's beating, called Aizen, and the secretary picked up the phone. After Watanabe expressed his greetings, he also personally sent a letter mail. After returning to the office, Aizen saw the email and took the initiative to call Watanabe. Although Watanabe has not been on Wall Street for many years, he was the top figure at Goldman Sachs after all. Hello, it's Aizen, how has Mr. Watanabe been recently? Aizen asked. I'm still the same, I'm already at the age of retirement, what kind of waves can I make? In the end, it's all in the world of you young people. I read the news, and you had a conflict with Lufeng? Are you okay? BNG cared. What can I do? Let me tell you, I was a boxer when I was young, but he was miserable. He was beaten by me with a left hook and a right hook. Aizen was on the phone. He boasted, I heard that you had a little holiday with him, this time I will help you out. Ha ha ha, Watanabe smiled brightly, and said to the phone, I don't actually have much fun with Lufeng, at most they are enemies of life and death. This time, you did the right thing, GFN's investment, is it yellow? Let me tell you, the top management is very dissatisfied with GFN's valuation and needs to be suppressed. To put it bluntly, it is suppressed. While talking, Aizen revealed some situations. Watanabe is relatively familiar with some investment strategies of Wall Street. He is really happy about the suppression of Lufeng. This person seems to be not afraid of the sky and the earth. Let him know who is the king of heaven. During this time, Watanabe didn't do anything, but it doesn't mean he didn't have a plan in his heart. Kevin, the head of GFN's overseas department, is currently busy in the Thai market. Kevin intends to use the Thai market as Jia Feng's first overseas stop to create a template. Watanabe is also staring here. Thailand is no better than China. Major foreign companies are deeply embedded in the market. Lambert's next step is definitely to crack down on the Jia Feng market and force him to lower his valuation. This is what Watanabe sent. Great gift. Watanabe just wanted to let Lu Feng know a little bit, and if he came out to hang out, he had to pay it back. 3 days later, Elmi and her dad landed in New York, and made an appointment with Jia Feng Electronics in advance for Lu Feng's time. They checked into the hotel where Lu Feng was staying, and the next thing was to wait, because Lu Feng was in various schools. Strolling, not yet back. Eisen is also paying attention to Lu Feng's movements. His constant speeches at major universities in the United States have been noticed by many media. Every speech is very provocative. Lu Feng's identity is also constantly changing. Yesterday he is still a mixed-race premature child, and tomorrow he will become the bottom of the United States, an abandoned mixed-race orphan, and he is still of the same sex. These things quickly attracted the attention of the New York Times, and the TV station also followed up. Some colleges and universities came out to refute the rumors, but did not cooperate. As for why Lu Feng went in to give a speech, they couldn't tell how hard they were. At first, Lu Feng packaged himself as a rich local money maker, saying that he could donate $100 million, and then he entered the school for crystal plating and organized a speech in an instant. Unexpectedly, after the speech, the money is gone, and these colleges dare not say that they are for the money in public. A blonde host of the TV station said to the camera, "This incident is a disaster for colleges and universities. I hope to restore the order of learning as soon as possible." There are social comments. This guy named Lu Feng is giving speeches everywhere, running trains with his mouth full. What does he want to do? Could it be that he still wants to run for? The face of Lu Feng not only became familiar with people on Wall Street, but even ordinary people watching TV began to be curious about such a person, but the media in the United States was larger, and the news was quickly covered. In a week, Lu Feng quickly visited all the key colleges and universities. With the team sent by the Research and Development Company, the newly established Anti-Discrimination Association began to screen people, and some students have joined. These are just the beginning. After the students join, they will issue some badges, clothes, and iconic things, and hold events from time to time. Strengthen the viscosity of these people. This association seems to be an anti-discrimination association. The articles of association are very simple, without any commercial taste. They eat and drink regularly, and do some public welfare activities, but Lu Feng knows that the longer they join, when they relax, they will be when using money to lure these top students into talent reserve centers and R/U0026D companies. A week later, Lu Feng ended her speech and set off for New York. On the same day, Su Yurong's plane landed. She led a team of 6 to attend a series of dinners, including Merrill Lynch's business dinner. Today's Global Investment Conference, Morgan's Earth Blue Dinner. There are many dinner parties held by major Wall Street companies. Generally speaking, Su Yurong would not come to participate in such a long distance, but this time she brought her team, euphemistically called inspection. Su Yurong did not settle in this hotel, but a nearby one. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the plane landed in New York. Lu Feng got out of the airport and got into the car and went straight to the hotel. On the way, he instructed Wang Yuan to congratulate a few people that the progress of the Anti-Discrimination Association must be closely watched, and Lu Cheng should work hard on this matter. Arriving at the hotel, just after returning to the room, planning to lie down and rest, Elmi chased after him and rang the doorbell. "Who is it?" Lu Feng stood up, a little impatient. When he went upstairs, he had already told him to go down. "Don't disturb him, lie down for a while." Open the door. A scent rushed to his face. He looked up and saw A with a delicate face. Lu Feng said in surprise, "Elmi." "Yes. It's me," Elmi said to Lu Feng without any extra expression on her face. "Can we talk? I contacted President Wei, and she kept pushing you, but she deducted hundreds of millions of goods. There has to be a solution, right? Didn't you already sue? Waiting for the court's judgment. Besides, we're not deducting, we're just canceling the cooperation and taking care of it." Lu Feng stared at her, looked up and down, and asked, "Your money, what about Ka and President Zhang? We have been fired. This matter has a great impact on us. This time my dad is here as the CEO. I hope the two sides can sit down and resume cooperation as soon as possible." There is nothing to talk about, Elmi sighed, as if this time really exhausted her. Lu Feng raised his eyebrows, looked Elmi up and down, and said with interest, "Can we talk about anything?" Elmi also felt something. Now that the matter has come, she really has no choice. She nodded and said, "Okay, you can say it." "Okay, it just so happens that I should need you during this period of time. You can help me. At the same time, I still have my original request. For the restart of Ruxin Laboratory, you don't need money, you only need to send engineers, and all the resources of Ruxin Laboratory. The research and development results are jointly owned by both engines," Lu Feng said solemnly. Elmi had already made preparations. Unexpectedly, Lu Feng valued the Ruxin Laboratory the most, and said, "That laboratory is more important than me." "Haha," Lu Feng was overjoyed and said to her, "Do you think you are very valuable? Go back and discuss it with your father. If this is done, then the contract for sharing channels is still valid, but it needs to be accepted. Our management." Elmi was a little lost, but she let go of her dangling heart and said, "We'll have a meeting at that moment." "Stop tossing me, I'm very tired," Lu Feng waved his hands and said, "You can have a meeting by yourself, I'm not free. We're staying in this hotel, and I'm downstairs. Where do you like to live? There's nothing else to do, leave." Lu Feng waved his hand impatiently. It was the first time that Elmi had grown up to have a boy so impatient and despised in front of her. She felt that she had lost her biggest support in an instant. When her appearance and figure could no longer make a man speak softly, then this men are invincible beings. Then contact again, Elmi turned her head and walked away. Just as Lu Feng was about to close the door, Njia trotted over and shouted, "Mr. Lu, I have a newspaper for you, this afternoon newspaper, someone scolds you on it." "Scolding me? Who scolds me?" Lu Feng felt puzzled. He didn't provoke anyone. He picked up the newspaper and saw a sub-headline that read, "Lu Feng is the clown of the times, the cancer of mankind, the life of the earth." Cancer? Lu Feng couldn't help shouting, "This title is too cruel, it seems to have a revenge for killing his father, even if he has been making a lot of noise in college recently, he shouldn't scold him like that." A cursory glance at the content shows that the contents are very real. They are all things Lu Feng did when he was promoting the Wipita TV. There are a lot of fabricated things in it, but it can be seen that this person is definitely the same as Lu Feng. Peak contact. Who is this? Lu Feng frowned and pondered for a while. He knew better when he pushed the Wipita TV, and he was still on Wall Street. After a brief search, a person quickly popped into his mind. Jiao Anfan. Thinking of this person, Lu Feng couldn't help laughing. He was really a little belly. It's been a few years, and he took the opportunity to fix himself. "Got it, don't worry about it, it's just an old friend." Lu Feng handed the newspaper to Njia and said, "Don't disturb me, I'll rest for a while." Lu Feng lay directly on the bed and didn't want to think about more things. Now even people like Jiao Anfan jumped out. This time it was amazing, but it didn't matter. The more lively it was here, the better. No one cheers when singing. Please remember this book's first domain name. Yin Yang Agent mobile version reading website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 858. In the Executive Vice General Office of Liberty Insurance, Jiao Anfan, who had not seen him for a few years, seemed much more mature than before. Since he packaged and sold Anfan's high-end TV to Konka, he has returned to Wall Street and entered the second largest company in the United States. Insurance companies have been working for a few years until now they have become executive vice presidents. He looked at his own article in the newspaper and couldn't tell how comfortable he was. He had lost many times since he was a child, and Jiao Anfan was not someone who couldn't afford to lose, but he was the only one who lost to Lu Feng. In his eyes, Lu Feng is a complete scumbag with no culture and self-discipline. How can such a person compare with him? But now this man rushed out the door and came to the hall he was most proud of, Wall Street. Jiao Anfan contacted the newspapers and media as soon as he learned about this, paid for a place, and published this article. He just wanted to tell Lu Feng that he was here too. When Lu Feng woke up, it was already 8 o'clock in the evening. The lights outside the window were bright, and there was a lot of traffic on the road. There was even a traffic jam, which made him think he was back in more than 20 years. After washing his face, he felt a lot more refreshed. Lu Feng calculated the time. It should be morning in China. Now Duo is summer vacation time. I haven't asked her about her situation for a while. Past. In China, at 7:30 in the morning, Zhang Xiaoyan had just woken up. She signed up Duo for an interest class during the summer vacation and urged her to get up every day. Can you get up quickly? Zhang Xiaoyan shouted with a feather duster in her hand. I don't want to go to class, I'll be good. Don't go to class, okay. Duo was lying on the bed wrapped in a thin quilt and rolling around, coquettishly said, Mom, I seem to have a high fever, I'm so uncomfortable. Oops, no, I can't live anymore. Don't do this with me. If you don't want to be beaten, get up quickly. I have to have a meeting when I get to the factory. Zhang Xiaoyan walked in and was about to pick her up. The phone in the living room rang. Duo took advantage of the situation and ran out of bed and said, I'll answer the phone. Who are you? I'm Duo. Are you a grandma? Are you a grandma? There was hope in Duo's voice. She wanted to go back to the village this summer and continue her happiness. Too much. I'm Dad, Lu Feng smiled unconsciously and said, Are you already on summer vacation? Dad? Dad, Duo confirmed that it was Lu Feng, and burst into tears in the next second, tears like raindrops, and choked up, Dad, please save your poor child, I am tortured by this devil every day. Torment. How do you talk as a child? Who did you learn from? Zhang Xiaoyan came out and shouted. Don't talk nonsense. Dad is abroad now. I will see you when you go back. You have to listen to your mother. Dad will bring you gifts. After this summer vacation, you will be the eldest child in the second grade, you know, Lu Feng said towards the phone. But I want to go back to the village. My mother signed me up for an interest class and forced me to take classes every day. Duo said with red eyes, Can you call Grandma and take me back to the village? Why are you going back to the village? Frying cow dung again. Lu Feng was also speechless to the child, but when he thought about it, he was also, who didn't like going back to the countryside when he was a child. Zhang Xiaoyan answered the phone and said, What are you calling for? I don't care about the children. Are you busy recently? How is the factory? Lu Feng leaned on the sofa, with a smile on his face unconsciously. I'm in the United States now, I'll bring you something when I go back. No need, this shit is mad at me. I'm still holding on to another one all day long, and I'm angry with her every morning. Zhang Xiaoyan also told Lu Feng about her grievances. Okay, if it really doesn't work, send it to your mother, Lu Feng suggested. I want to give it to, how can I give it? She is now, this is it now. Zhang Xiaoyan's eyes were red. Duo is now completely unloved by her grandmother and uncle. If it was Lu Feng's biological, it could still be sent to Lu Feng. There is no way to send it to my parents now. Feeling her embarrassment, Lu Feng sighed. The family is really broken, and he said, she doesn't like it, you really can't, so just take her to work. After I return to China, I will take her for a while. You should do your own thing first, just talk, let's do it first. Hang up. Zhang Xiaoyan didn't want to talk more, put down the phone and looked at Duo's red eyes. Her heart softened, and she said, I went to school, is it that painful? I talked to our teacher, and my mood in class is similar to her mood at work. Duo sobbed. What's your mood? Zhang Xiaoyan wondered. I'm thinking, let's die. Zhang Xiaoyan was amused by her. Although this guy is sometimes maddened, he is cute and makes his heart warm. Zhang Xiaoyan squatted down, looked at her and said, you can either go to class or follow me to work. When I go to work, I have a meeting. You have to be quiet when you talk about various things. He nodded heavily and said, I work with my mother. I have been working with my mother since I was a child. I used to be in the factory. I'm very good. When I mentioned before, I instantly mentioned Zhang Xiaoyan's sadness, tears fell, and she took a deep breath and said, okay, I'll take you to work. Maybe I can give you some business advice. Duo wiped away tears for Zhang Xiaoyan. Zhang Xiaoyan couldn't help but laugh. Lu Feng hung up the phone and sat on the sofa in a daze. Duo was really not easy for this child. Before Lu Feng could recover, he remembered the phone again. Who is it? Lu Feng thought that Duo called again and wanted to cry with him. Who are you talking about? You're awake, Su Yurong's voice came from the other end of the phone. When did you arrive? I've been madly busy these days. I just finished school. Lu Feng rubbed his face with his hands and said, Jenkin and the others are also contacting local investors recently. You should have seen it in the newspapers, right? I see. Do you want to go to Meryl's dinner tonight? If you don't go, Meryl won't have a business dinner for the next 2 months. Su Yurong on the other end of the phone said a little lazily, when I wake up, I put on my makeup, don't blame me for not doing it properly if you don't go. I'll be right now, Lu Feng said hurriedly. He doesn't want to miss any opportunity to show his face in front of Wall Street Capital now. Only by letting the capital roll up will he be qualified to show his face. 10 minutes later, Lu Feng went downstairs in a suit and leather shoes. Except for Zhen Kun, everyone else was notified. In the hall, Lu Feng looked at these 4 people, nodded secretly in his heart, felt that there were enough people, and put his eyes on Feng Xiao, put his arms around Feng Xiao's shoulders and said, Xiao, how is your brother doing to you? Feng Xiao was a little puzzled, but nodded, and said, very good. Then will you keep the secret for brother? Lu Feng asked Feng Xiao. Sure, when did I leak your secret? That's fine, brother, I believe you. I'm going to meet someone in a while. What about you? Don't tell your dad and Uncle Kun about this person you saw tonight, you know. Lu Feng patted him on the back and said. Brothers. We're going to a dinner party in a while, everyone should go back and change. Lu Feng looked at the crowd. A few days ago, Lu Feng rented a suit for each of them, and now he's using them. A few minutes later, everyone was wearing gorgeous makeup, especially Njia. The evening dress and high heels made her freckles look like little stars. You put on makeup on the way, Lu Feng said to the crowd, cooperation, right? From now on, your identities are not ordinary, Wang Yuan He, from now on your father is in charge of domestic coal mines and oil resources. Leader, Lu Yulong, your father is the CEO of a state-owned enterprise with assets in the trillions of dollars, and Jia Y, your father is in Europe and is worth hundreds of billions, understand? Feng Xiao quickly understood what he was going to do tonight. The other three were dumbfounded, but Lu Feng didn't have time to explain to them. Just about to leave, Elmi, who had been paying attention to Lu Feng's movements, went downstairs and asked Lu Feng, "What are you doing?" "My company's senior management submitted the matter of Ruxin Lab, but we are now." "I don't have the heart to tell you this." Just as Lu Feng was about to leave, he suddenly turned his head and stared at Elmi. "Isn't this a ready-made person?" and he said, "Do you want to solve this matter? Think, we've been communicating with you now, but have you taken it seriously once?" Elmi's anger was almost unbearable. If it weren't for the hundreds of millions of goods seized in his hands, she would have been furious. "Follow me if you want," Lu Feng waved and let everyone get in the car. 3 Cadillac sedans were parked outside the door. Lu Feng pulled Elmi into the car where Su Yorong was sitting. In the back seat, Su Yorong was wearing a blue evening dress, dark red lips, and her hair was curled up. On top of his head was a small hat the size of a child's slap, half veiled with a veil, holding a long lady's cigarette in his hand, looking mysterious and noble. "Let's go," Lu Feng said to the driver and straightened his suit. Su Yorong turned her head and glanced at Elmi, frowned slightly. "Where did you get the foreign goods? How many days have you been here?" "I didn't get this in the past few days, it was the Elmi from before. I just pulled her over to make up the number of people today." Lu Feng leaned on his seat and said with a sigh of relief, "Is it too late now?" "I don't care about that, I'm only responsible for taking you in, you can figure out the rest yourself," Su Yorong said, smoking a cigarette. "Where do you sleep at night?" "What time is it? I'm burning my eyebrows. Where do I sleep?" Lu Feng sat up straight and looked at Su Yorong. "Sleep where I like to sleep." Su Yorong glanced at Elmi next to her, who was younger than herself and still a foreigner. She snorted coldly, feeling a little unhappy. "What are you talking about?" Elmi looked at Lu Feng and said, "Where are you taking me? Who is this? Go to the dinner party. If you want to talk to me, you have to cooperate with me tonight. Just one thing. When you need it, show your identity and express your admiration for me, understand?" Lu Feng instructed her. "What's your trick this time?" Su Yorong asked, knocking the ash out of the window. "I'm going to be a beauty hunter. Please remember this book's first domain name. Yin Yang Agent mobile version reading website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 859. Beauty Hunter, Su Yorong snorted coldly, "Am I not enough?" Lu Feng didn't talk to her. Now this woman smelled of vinegar, turned her head and said to Elmi, "Tonight is just one thing, give me a boost and show yours at the right time. Identity, express love to me, and are willing to support me unconditionally. Can this work be done?" "I can do anything, as long as you return the detained goods and resume sales channel cooperation," Elmi said solemnly. "You are not qualified to talk to me. Today's matter is just a premise, understand?" Lu Feng stared at her and said, "Do you agree? If you don't agree, I will ask the driver to stop. You go. You are asking me sky-high prices, you are threatening me." Elmi's pretty face flushed with anger. "Driver! Stop!" Lu Feng opened the middle partition and shouted. The driver slammed the brakes to stop the car, and Elmi was taken aback. Is Lu Feng really going to drive her out of the car in this traffic? Now she has no bargaining chip, no matter how high she used to be, now she can only let Lu Feng handle it. "Can't I promise?" Elmi said aggrieved. The driver turned around and asked Lu Feng, "Sir, what's the matter?" "It's okay, the car is driving fine, keep driving." Lu Feng closed the partition. The driver was speechless. It was the first time he had met someone like Lu Feng. The car continued to speed forward. In the car behind, and Jiawei was wearing makeup. Feng Xiao taught them how to cooperate with Lu Feng. Sitting in the middle, Elmi couldn't tell the grievances in her heart. What kind of man sees such a good-looking girl who doesn't hold it in his hand and shows her hospitality? Lu Feng is really rare. She glanced at Su Yurong beside her. This woman seemed to have a good relationship with Lu Feng. Everyone was a woman, it was easier to talk. She still knew a few Hong Kong dialects, and whispered, "Can you tell him for me?" "Well. Damn it, I'm so annoying." Su Yurong glanced impatiently and said, "Just drag it out and kill it." Elmi was so frightened that she didn't dare to speak, and sat there obediently without saying a word. Meryl's dinner was held in a private manner. This manor is the manor of one of Meryl's investment shareholders. It covers an area of 30 acres and has a construction area of 8,400 square meters. $1 million. The lights were bright tonight. Celebrities, financial giants, and even high-level officials in the United States, people of Lu Feng's level, were not qualified to participate in such a dinner party. Su Yurong came as an ordinary audience. The car was parked in the parking lot at the entrance. There was a special reception vehicle after getting off the car. Lu Feng entered the manor in an open-top Mercedes-Benz. Today, not to mention Wang Yuanhe and a few people, even Lu Feng opened his eyes. Dozens of Mercedes-Benz convertibles. The car acts as a bus here. The mansions in front are connected into a splendid light. The privacy here is very good. There is only one residence within a radius of 5 kilometers. Even if you are crazy, no one will care. The buffet on the lawn was already in a mess. The central pool was spouting a fountain. Some people were playing in the open-air pool not far away. Lu Feng raised his head and saw someone sitting in the floor-to-ceiling windows on the second floor, holding chips in their hands. It's like heaven here, you can have anything you want. After all, they were late. Several people were already drunk, and the waiter was helping them to bring them to the room. Lu Feng and his party stood there watching such a scene, as if they had come to a post-war battlefield. "Just eat it," Su Yurong spread out her hands, as if she was wasting her well-dressed makeup for such a scene. "Welcome, distinguished guests, what do you need?" A man who looked like a butler came over. It's a pity that Su Yurong doesn't understand English, so she turned to look at Lu Feng. She still doesn't understand, how can Lu Feng speak so fluent English as someone with similar education as her? Lu Feng ordered a lot of things. Anyway, he was a big eater, not to mention the big dogs on Wall Street who don't eat for nothing. Everyone found a place to sit down, looking a little bored. Jiawei brought a few pieces of snacks, took a bite and said, "This is delicious." "Pay attention to your identity, don't act like you haven't eaten." Lu Feng glanced around and said dissatisfiedly, "Is there no one to entertain you? Who is in charge? Could it be that you want the board of directors of Merrill Lynch to stand here to greet you?" Su Yurong sighed and said, "If you don't have the face of United Capital, no one will be able to get in except Feng Xiao." After Feng Xiao got out of the car, he saw that Su Yurong had not spoken. He couldn't understand why Brother Feng wanted to get a deal with this woman. He also knew that his father and Su Yurong had a cooperative relationship. The dark line was pinched by Dad's hand. The more he got to know the company, the more he felt that the world was complicated. On the surface, people were polite, but secretly they were constantly switching between cooperation and competition. Lu Feng glanced around. No one paid any attention to these people, but occasionally a few people looked this way. If this continues, tonight will be in vain. Lu Feng stood up and walked towards the middle position. Since no one took care of him, then he blamed himself for the trouble. Who organized this banquet? No one greeted me when Lu Feng arrived. Don't you guys want to start a company? Lu Feng snarled and roared, I will stare at your dog's eyes to see if I am who. There are a total of 300 people here tonight, all of them from the top of the society. Although the things they do may be nasty, they are all decent people with civilized language. This sound is like the sound of shopping for vegetables in a top-level banquet. The pot. In an instant, everyone's eyes were focused on Lu Feng. Whether they were sitting on the side chatting or gambling at the poker table upstairs, they all fixed their eyes on him. The curtains on the third floor were pulled open, and a man in his 30s glanced down and asked, "Who is this person?" "I don't know, I'll check it out." There were 7 or 8 people sitting on the third floor, all of them in their 60s. One of them was an old white man in an expensive suit with a cigar in his hand. He walked over to take a look and asked, "He asked me to go down to entertain he." The others laughed when they heard this, and the number of people who were present together could allow them to receive no more than 2 hands in the United States. "Maybe it's just too much drinking, let's deal with it," the man in his 30s hurriedly said. "When you invite guests in the future, you must pay attention to screening, and don't invite some useless people over." "Okay, I will pay attention." After the man finished speaking, he pulled the curtains up, turned his head and left in a hurry. Lu Feng stood there, waiting for their people to come, and while still lighting a cigarette at this time, it was not the person who greeted him, but the security guard who walked towards him. 4 or 5 black security guards came over, and with a fierce look, they pointed Lu Feng with their fingers, and shouted, "Please squat down and put your head in your hands." When Su Yurong saw that these security guards were armed with guns, she immediately became nervous. Feng Xiao also stood up from his position. If something were to happen, it would be a big deal. Lu Feng glanced at the guns around their waists and took a puff of smoke. "Do you know who I am? Please cooperate, sir." "Why should I cooperate with you? Let me tell you, as long as I'm unhappy today, what the international situation will be like tomorrow, it's hard to say." Lu Feng threatened several security guards. "Are you sure, you have to take this responsibility?" These security guards are also very embarrassed. Those who can come here are all big people. They really dare not do it. When the security guards were embarrassed, the man came over, waved his hand, and motioned them to leave. He looked at Lu Feng and asked, "This gentleman, I don't know where the poor hospitality made you lose such a big temper. I'm here, no one greets me." "Do you know who I am?" Lu Feng asked while smoking a cigarette. "Sorry, I really don't know, let alone how powerful you are," the man said to Lu Feng. "You can tell the waiter what you need, and the banquet is about to end." "I tell you, I'm from Huaxia, the founder of Jiafeng Group," Lu Feng said solemnly. Many people looked here, expecting something, but it turned out to be an unknown small company that lost interest in an instant, and the scene was booed. "Okay. Welcome to your founder, although I don't remember inviting such a company," the man smiled disdainfully and said, "but you are still welcome. I just hope you will be quiet and not disturb other guests." The audience burst into laughter. "I thought it was a powerful person, but it turned out to be a small business that didn't even get an invitation letter. Get him out. Get out. How can such a high-end place allow such people to enter? Go to Nima, go out. Lao Tzu told you to go out." A white man in his 50s, with a wine bottle in his hand, shouted at Lu Feng with the smell of alcohol, as if he was going to fight in the next second, but it was a pity that he staggered and could not stand still. "I'm an unknown little person, but through my hard work, I've achieved success step by step." Lu Feng pointed over there. "The current situation has overturned all his previous plans." Hard on the head. The CEO of Hong Kong United Capital, the daughter of the CEO of Nokia, and the daughter of a person in power in China are just 3. I tell you, the daughter of the EU president and the princess of Arabia are part of my girlfriend. Lu Feng. He walked slowly towards Su Yurong. In front of everyone's eyes, he kissed Su Yurong's mouth, turned his head and kissed Elmi and Njia on the face, and said loudly, "This is who I am, I'm not good enough. If I am unhappy today, the Third World War will start tomorrow, and if I am unhappy, my woman is unhappy." Everyone present had seen such a scene, and they all gasped. If this was true, then Lu Feng would be the first to eat soft rice. Please remember this book's first domain name. Yin Yang Agent mobile version reading website.